Hey guys, this is Patrick from STH, and today we're going to take a look at the Dell EMC Networking S5232FON. Now, I said that with a lot of gusto, but really, when you take it and you break it apart, what it really means is that this is a generation newer because it's a 52 series. So it's one generation newer than the 51 series that we recently took a look at. It's also a 32, which means it has 32 QSFP28 ports, and the ON part tells us the fact that it's part of Dell's open networking line. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the switch and what this whole thing even means. We're even going to take a look inside it to see how it works. Now, a lot of people might think that, hey, this is the S5200, there's an S5100, are they very different? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. Dell completely reimagined their switch series between the 5100 and 5200 series. So while you may have seen some other 32-port 100 gig Ethernet switches from Dell in the past, the architecture, when you actually pull the switch open and look inside, it's actually way different than the previous generation. All right, so let's take a look at the front of the switch because that is by far the most interesting thing. Now, when you look at the switch, the first thing you're probably gonna see is that there's an SFP plus, or two SFP plus cages on one side, but the real big networking feature is clearly the 32 QSFP28 ports. Now, these QSFP28 ports are actually more flexible than just saying like, oh, they're 100 gig Ethernet ports, because well, you can run DACs, so you can run direct attached copper cables, you can run different types of optics, from everything from short range to long range optics. By the way, we do have a fiber optic series that we are going to be running on STH over the next couple quarters, and so just check that out, and it's on the STH main site. We may even link some of that in the description as well. But while you can do a total of 32 100 gigabit Ethernet ports, there's actually more flexibility than that, because what you can do is you can use breakout cable. And that means that for most of the ports, you can actually break out to 25 gig Ethernet. And this switch does not support a full 128, but you can get up to a total of 124 25 gig Ethernet ports on the switch. You can also break out to 50 gig Ethernet a little bit easier, and you can get a total of 64 50 gig Ethernet ports. So depending on the type of cables that you use, you basically can go from a 32 port switch up to about 124 ports of 25 gig Ethernet, which is actually really awesome because it gives you a lot of flexibility. In fact, in the lab, we tend to use our 100 gig switches not just for 100 gig point to point. We also have breakouts that we use so we can go and service all of our 25 gig gear with 100 gig Ethernet switches. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, wait, now I really don't want to have to go and use all these breakout cables. Doesn't Dell have a switch that has a lot more 25 gig Ethernet, but doesn't necessarily need to use all the breakouts? And they do, and that is called the Dell S5296FON in the series. And that looks a little bit like, this thing right here. And yeah, there's not a whole lot of information on these switches, so if you want to see inside, let me know, and we can do a video on this as well. That is a great use of the comments. Also, on the front of the switch, we have our stacking LCDs, so you can see what number it is in a stack. There's also some status lights, but that's basically the front. It's basically dominated by these QSFP28 ports. Moving to the rear of the system, we actually have a total of 4 fan modules that basically provide all of the cooling for the system. Now you can get front to rear airflow, rear to front airflow, whichever one you want. And these modules are hot swappable. Now on some of the lower end switches, you tend to see that you get more like fixed fans, but on a higher end switch like this, you're going to get the ability to hot swap your fans, so that way you don't have to take your switch out of the rack and out of your installation, so that if you just want to go and service a fan module, for example. That's kind of really just standard on this class of switch. Also standard on this class of switch is something like redundant power supplies. So this switch uses 2 Dell 750 watt 80 plus platinum power supplies, and that provides redundant power on the back of the system. Again, something just to be mindful of is that these power supplies do have fans on them, and they do have a direction as well. So that's something that you're gonna see. There's this little arrow here that shows you the direction. So if you do need to go find a replacement at any point, and maybe Dell can't get you a replacement, that's a good way to go and look for the correct replacement for a power supply like this. So aside from the fans and also the redundant power supplies, what you also get is you get 2 RJ45 ports, but those are really, well, one of them is a out-of-band management port, and the other one is a serial console port. You also get a USB port, and you get the service tag on the back. Now, this is a pretty standard way to go do a management block for Dell. Personally, I would have rather have seen this on the front of the chassis. It would have been hard. You're going to see why when we get inside, but I would have preferred if it was on the front of the chassis because I think it's just easier because you almost always want to have access to all of your, ports. And so having things on the back like a service tag and having things on the back like, the management port and serial console port, if it's in a rack, it's just hard to get to. So I do kind of wish that Dell put these things on the front, and well, what can you do? But the big changes by far are what we see when we get inside the Switch. So let's get into that. Now, when we open up the Switch, the first thing you're gonna see is the main Switch PCB. And you're gonna see a big giant heatsink there. Under that heatsink, what you have is a Broadcom Trident 3 chip. I think this is in their 7 line because this is a 3200 gig switch. And for those who don't know, Broadcom is by far the biggest vendor for merchant silicon. So a lot of the open networking industry, a lot of the hyperscalers and stuff use Broadcom chips. And so Broadcom basically has a giant business where they make these switch chips, and then different vendors go and integrate it into their switch platforms. And sometimes there's open software, sometimes there's not open software, but it's basically integrated around Broadcom chips. They're by far the biggest player in the market. Now, in Broadcom's portfolio, above the Trident line, you really have like the Tomahawk line. And the Tomahawk has always been kind of like really more about like all out like crazy performance. So it's a lot of the ones that the hyperscales kind of use the Tomahawk line. And then the other line that you tend to see used a lot is the Trident line. And Trident line tends to be more, I guess, prominent in things like enterprise switching because you get a little bit more feature set instead of just kind of going all for that like all out performance crown. Broadcom does have a newer version of the Trident, but the Trident 3 was based on 16 nanometer process, and it also just moves a ton of data. When we talk about the differences between this generation, the 5200 series, and the 5100 series, which is the previous generation used the Cavium XPliant. Cavium is now part of Marvell due to an acquisition, but they used an XPliant chip, and frankly, the XPliant chip, it was interesting, but it wasn't necessarily as well supported as you're gonna see with the Trident line. And so I guess Dell just said, okay, we're gonna go kind of move to something that's a little bit more standard in this generation. And that's gonna have big implications that we're gonna talk about in a little bit. And if you are looking for a Tomahawk chip, your best bet, the best thing I can tell you is probably look at the Z series instead of the S series from Dell, because if you want to stay in the Dell ecosystem and you want Tomahawk, usually the Tomahawk gets put into the Z series. In fact, the first 32 port 100 gig Ethernet switch that we got in the STH data center lab was actually a Dell, I think Z9100ON. So it was a Z series Dell. So on that big switch PCB, you're gonna see all of the ports, but the other big feature you're gonna see is this little tiny PCB board. It's not really tiny, but it's a smaller PCB board that kind of sits above that, and you're gonna see a little micro semi chip there. That's really for all of the clocking functions and the time functions, so that's what that's there for. Time is a big deal these days, and this is kind of one of the solutions that you would use instead of just kind of using like internet-based NTP. Something that's also just like a little quick aside is that you're gonna see a lattice chip. Something that is interesting, I think at least, about the Dell switches versus some of the other switches, or a lot of the other switches that we see in the market, is that normally you see a lot more like Altera and sometimes Xilinx. Every once in a while I see Xilinx chips as well in switches, but realistically, I don't really know why, but for some reason Dell is like a lattice shop. So that's why you see a lattice chip here instead of something from like Altera or Xilinx. Okay, so behind that main switchboard, what you're gonna see is another PCB. And we're gonna talk about that bottom PCB first. The bottom PCB really has the places that you would plug in the hot swap fans, the redundant power supplies, and also the ports for the USB ports, management port, serial port, and even housing that service tag. That main PCB in the back actually carries all the power to the main switch PCB, but it also has other things like, for example, the management processors. And you're gonna notice I said management processors because there's actually two in the system. Even though if you read Dell's documentation or main specs and documentation, you may only think that there's one. There are actually two different management processor complexes here. Now, of those two PCBs, let's talk about the small one first, right? We have really this one right here, which is probably the most interesting one, because this is the one that you don't really see in most of Dell's public specs. When you read the spec sheet, you don't really see that there's an ASPEED BMC here. Now, the ASPEED BMC is specifically very interesting because, well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, this is an ARM-based management complex that's on the switch. It's also different than when we saw on the 5100 series that didn't have an ASPEED controller. And the other kind of interesting thing is just if you look to the PowerEdge line, so the Dell EMC PowerEdge line, which is kind of base servers, and you look to iDRAC, iDRAC does not use the ASPEED BMC that you see in most of the other servers in the industry. And so just kind of interesting here, the fact that instead of using iDRAC, which of course costs more, but they're actually using an ASPEED, which is kind of a more industry standard thing. And it's kind of like, like what if PowerEdge used a ASPEED controller as their baseboard management controller and just kind of had more like open firmware instead of iDRAC? That would be kind of an interesting product too. But it turns out that Dell actually is using ASPEED BMCs. They're just using them in their switches, not their servers. And if you're wondering what that little tiny DRAM chip is, because you do have an ARM processor, you do need to have a little bit of memory, and that is what that little chip is. But there is one of these PCBs that is super exciting as well, and that's this one over here. Now, this is another ginormous change over the S5100 series. Specifically, we have a couple of upgrades, and by a couple of upgrades, I mean like everything on this is upgraded versus the previous generation. For example, let's take a look at this over here, which is the solid state drive. It's an InnoDisk solid state drive. And instead of that solid state drive being an mSATA, it's actually an M.2, so it's a more modern form factor. It's also 64 gigabytes, which is larger than in the previous generation by I think like 4x. I think the old one was like 16 or 32 gigs. If I'm wrong, we'll go flash something up. Next, let's get to this heatsink, because this is an Atom C3000 series chip here. It's the old, previous generation S5100 used the Atom C2000 series Rangeley. So we go from Rangeley to Denverton, which just in terms of chip eras and all that kind of stuff, basically moves us from a 2013 generation chip up to a 2017 generation chip in this, one generation of switches. So that's actually a big deal. The other really cool thing about Denverton is like, number one, it's way faster. It's just overall a much, much better platform because it's like a 4-year newer platform. But the other thing is it did not have the AVR54 bug that we saw with the Rangeley series. And so these tend to be a little bit safer, I think, in terms of chips. In case you're wondering, the switch chip does the vast majority of all the switching, but in terms of running a management plane, that's basically going to run on this processor right here, not the ASPEED BMC. And so that is something just to kind of keep in mind, that your kind of management computer in this is actually much faster than in the previous generation. And oh yeah, Dell, like I would totally love to go review a Dell Edge server based on a little, like COM size or like something like this size, little computer, because I think that would be like super cool. So if you want to go make that, give me a call. Now with this Denverton processor, we also go from like DDR3 memory up to DDR4. So we have an 8 gigabyte DDR4 SODIMM right here, but there is something a little bit different about this one than you might be expecting. First off, we do get an ECC SODIMM, which is awesome, especially in a higher end switch like this. But the other side is that the previous generation would have had 8 gigabytes in the switch of like kind of like this class. And you can see we have an 8 gig DIMM here, but there's actually a second one. If we take this card and we were to turn it around, what you'd see is that there's a second SODIMM on the back of this card. And what that practically means is that this little card that I have in my hand has a Denverton CPU, 16 gigabytes of memory, and 64 gigs of SSD space, which makes it like a little tiny server that's inside your switch. I mean, it would actually be like a super cool little server platform, edge server platform, if maybe you took like the Denverton series, put a couple ports on it, and then, stuck a ASPEED BMC on it. Just an idea, Dell. Make it happen. Now, one other small thing that I actually really like the fact that Dell changed on this version versus the previous generation. We just looked at the S5148 FON, and going from the 5200 to the 5100 to the 5200 series, one thing that Dell did was they actually changed where the CR2032 battery is. Now, in the previous generation, they're basically on the same PCB, but the previous generation that was actually covered by the management processor board, and in this generation it's actually just easily accessible. So if you're going to go like redeploy one of these things, or if you ever open them up, I always like suggest like, hey, it might be a good idea, especially after like a year or two, to just go and swap out the battery. So it's kind of cool that Dell made that little tiny serviceability change in this generation. Okay, so let's get to the so what of this, because I think that's the most important thing. And when you get to the so what, I think that the really interesting part is really comparing this switch to the previous generation. Both of them are called open networking switches. That's the ON. But if you look at like what operating systems you can really run on the 5100 series, you're most likely going to run Dell OS 10, and that was going to be your network stack. Now, Dell has a really kind of cool little network operating system based on Linux, and so something that I think a lot of people are going to gravitate to and like. But if you did want to go run something that's, kind of a little bit less Dell specific and a little bit more industry specific, let's just take kind of two examples. One, if you wanted to go, say, use Sonic. Now, Sonic is the big network operating system that a lot of hyperscalers and a lot of other people are using these days. It is basically the thing or the hot stuff in software-defined networking. And what you're going to say and what you're going to see here on the page is that you actually do get support for the S5232FON, but you didn't see the 5100 series part there. The same thing is going to play out if we look at the Cumulus Linux. Now, NVIDIA bought both Mellanox and they also bought Cumulus Linux. And so if you wanted to kind of go look at that kind of commercial supported option, that also you're going to see that we have support for the S5232FON, but we didn't necessarily have it for the 5100 series. I think that's really attributable to two things. One, we have, instead of the Cavium XPliant network, switch chip, we now have a Broadcom Trident 3 chip, which is just, I guess it's just more common, and so it's more widely supported, especially in these open operating systems. And then the other thing that you have is we actually move from Rangeley to Deverton, so we get a little bit more power, but we also get more capacity because we are going to 16 gigabytes of memory, we have 64 gig SSD, so we just have more capacity to go put more on there for an operating system, and then go run, like more services and what have you on there. I mean, let's face it, if you have more processing power, you have more memory, and you have more storage in your control plane, you're just gonna have a little bit more capability. That's life. But that gets me to the one thing that I really wish that Dell would do with their ON switches. And that's really just say like, hey, this is what's inside. I mean, it's really hard to just go find what's inside of one of their open networking switches. And you think about it, hey, we're gonna go give someone a switch and say you can go run Linux, you can go run open networking on there. You're gonna find out what the hardware is anyway. So like, why don't they just be, a little bit more open about like, hey, this is what we're gonna go put in our switches. I mean, people are gonna figure out in the market like, oh, are you using Trident? Are you using Tomahawk? Are you using something else? Like, I don't know, an Innovium or a Barefoot or something like that. I mean, people will figure that out very quickly. They're gonna figure out what kind of processor you're using, all that kind of stuff, if you're gonna go give them that low level control. So at some point, you're just kind of like, Dell, like, why not just go and embrace the fact and really pretend to be an open networking vendor? Because at the end of the day, when I tore apart this switch, I was just shocked with just how much of a massive jump there was versus the S5100 series going to the S5200 series. Now that I've taken apart a number of these switches, I can definitely tell you that there is a huge evolution between the S5100 to S5200 series. There is no question about that. So if you're looking at, what my recommendation would be, I would say if you are like super budget conscious and you're fine running OS 10, sure, the 5100 series is okay. But if you really want to get into like open networking and like run Sonic or, any of that kind of stuff, you just want a much better switch, I would frankly go for the S5200 series over the S5100 series. One thing that is on the spec sheet that we saw a pretty wide variance in was really when it got down to, like what was the power consumption? Now Dell lists the typical power consumption is something like 300 watts, which is actually not too bad for a switch like this. The kind of maximum power consumption, especially if you use like kind of really like long range, crazy optics, they put at 635 watts, so still well behind or well below the 750 watt power supplies. And it really depends that even that 300 watts is really kind of dependent on like, what kind of DACs or optics you're putting in. Also, how many ports you have filled up and how much you're using and all that kind of stuff. This is definitely, however, not a switch that if you're thinking like, hey, I want to put this like in an office or like an office cabinet that's not really well sound insulated or anything like that. It definitely, definitely puts out way too much noise to be anywhere near a, anywhere anybody's working, even if it's in a like lightly soundproofed cabinet. I mean, really, this is something that does belong in the data center because it absolutely screams as a 1U platform. So even though Dell is not necessarily overly forthcoming with this kind of information, I still think it's important to get this information out to folks. So we just kind of decided, hey, let's go open one of these things up. Hopefully you really like the fact that we did this. And if you did, why don't you give us a like, click subscribe, turn on notifications so you can see whenever we come out with great new videos. As always, thanks for watching and have an awesome day.